Hello, I'm Caroline Drennen, and I'm here with From the Street with Missy Mazzoli. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So Missy, could you tell me a little bit about what you're doing on campus? Why are you here on Arch Street? Give us a little background.
Sure. Well, I am a composer by profession, and as part of being a composer, I run my own music ensemble. It's sort of a band meets contemporary music ensemble. It's called Victoire. So we're here giving a performance tonight at University of Dayton, and we're really excited.
And is this the first day that you're actually going to be on campus just tonight?
We arrived yesterday.
Okay.
And I did a lecture yesterday, and we're performing tonight.
Okay, cool. And from what I understand, you mentioned you're a composer. I know you've gotten 4 ASCAP Young Composer Awards. So I'm really interested. What's your inspiration? How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, well, I've been composing almost my entire life. I started as a pianist when I was a little kid, and then quickly realized that it was just not enough for me. Like didn't feel like I could be creative enough as a piano player. So because I had all these other interests, I was interested in literature and philosophy and poetry and science and all these other things. So I needed something that could sort of encompass all of those things. So composing actually allows me to pursue all these different interests and to be creative. So, which is what I needed. So yeah, I've been doing this for a really long time, and have I'm 31, and just in the last 2 years have been able to sort of make a living from it, which is great.
Wow. So you mentioned that part of it is the philosophy and the storytelling. How do you take those ideas and put them into a song?
Good question. It's different for every piece that I write. Some of my music has words, so that's a very easy answer, and that I can tell stories through the lyrics. But a lot of it is much more abstract. It's more of an emotional sort of content, and that's sort of what I'm interested in stories. I think that the reason I was attracted to music is because it expresses all the things that we can't express in words. And that to me is much more complicated and interesting. So all my music, my music is very visual and it's very narrative, but it's never really rarely is it really a clear narrative like a country song is.
Yeah, I noticed that one thing was your genre. It says that you don't like to be defined in a specific genre. Is that because of the storytelling that you want to do, in the sense that it goes all over the place, or is there more of a other reason for that?
Yeah, well, I am trying to create music that doesn't sound like anything else. I mean, I definitely have a lot of influences, and I'm happy to let those come out in my music, but I don't want anyone to hear my music and say, oh, that's indie rock, or that's, was written in 2005 and that belongs to this genre or something. I just feel like I want something that's completely new. And because I feel like my influences are so varied. I grew up in the 80s and 90s listening to indie rock and rock music and pop music, but also was very, very interested in classical music. So I feel like my music is this sort of unique marriage of the two genres.
Yeah, I was looking up something and it said that it was dreamy post-rock, quirky minimalism, and rich romanticism.
Right.
Is how you kind of define that. That's a huge, all over the place. Does that make it hard to market yourself in any way?
Sure. I mean, it would be a lot easier to market if we could pigeonhole it as like, this is classical music and this is something. But I don't feel like that would lead to anything that would make us happy. I think that, it would really be false. I mean, because I don't feel like the music has any specific label. And every time someone puts a label on us, I really am very quick to reject it and say, well, that's not us, or that's, we're different because of this and this and this and this. So it's hard. Yet it would be, I do sometimes wish we were a little bit easier to market, because it's, like that description that you read is really long, but it's sort of intentionally long to sort of throw people off guard and to get them to say like, oh, weird, I have no idea what that sounds like, I'll just go listen to it. So as long as we can get people listening to the music, I feel like we're good to go.
I know I was listening to a few tracks, and it was weird how that description did kind of play into the song, because it was like, I can see how this kind of relates. The one is the actual song called Victoire?
That's the name of the group.
The group, and then the song that's, I wish I had the new one that just came out, and there is it's topped in like the NPR had it top listed, and
Cathedral City is the album.
City. Oh,
and that's also the name of a song on the album.
And is it also the song? Okay, because I was like trying to figure it out, and I was like, is this the name of the group?
Right.
So that definitely makes sense. And is each song then? Do you try to incorporate all of that into a song, or is it one song will have more romanticism than another? Do you try to keep it all balanced, or is it more give and take depending on the song?
I don't really think about genre or style when I'm writing. I just sort of let it happen, and then usually other people will put the labels on it later. I feel like every one of our songs has a little bit of everything in it. So, but yeah, I don't really think about it. I think if I thought about it too much, I'd become really self-conscious or write music that was very stilted and not really expressive.
It's very interesting. So, do you have a specific thing that inspires you? Is it little things like, a flower, or is it kind of like you said, these big philosophical ideas? What sparks that in you to create these amazing compositions?
Well, really every song is different. I mean, on the album Cathedral City, there's the title track, Cathedral City, was actually inspired by this chance meeting that I had with the neurologist Oliver Sacks, who wrote the book The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, which is how a lot of people know him. And he was telling me, it was very lucky that I happened to meet him, and he told me this story about the case study he did about a man who had been blind his whole life, and then when he was 50, they did an operation, and he regained the ability to see. So he was seeing for the first time in his life at age 50, but he couldn't make sense of anything in the world because his brain had not been trained to think that way. So wow. This was really inspiring for me. I just kept imagining what it was like to see for the first time at such at age 50, so far along in life. So that inspired the song Cathedral City, and it's sort of the lyrics are sort of about going from the darkness into the light. The music video we made is sort of about going from the darkness into the light.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense now with the light bulbs.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a cool image. I wonder what it means, and hearing that backstory is incredible that sparked so much. It's very cool. So to go to the next step, so you compose it, and then you have a group that you're performing with, and they're all females, correct? Was that intentional?
In the beginning, it was sort of a happy accident. I knew that I wanted to start an ensemble to play my music, and because I really wanted to perform more myself. I wanted to travel. I wanted to be able to take my music anywhere and perform it in front of all these different audiences. But to do that, I needed a group that was consistent and was small enough that we could tour. So there are 5 of us, violin, clarinet, 2 keyboards, and double bass, and I play one of the keyboards. So I got all of my friends together in New York, and they all happened to be women. But then once it happened, like we were rehearsing, and we were all, at those early rehearsals, we were like, this is really nice, and it's just rare in the music community and in the contemporary music community that you get to work with an ensemble that's all women. And it was just really refreshing. I mean, we're not exclusionary. Like we've collaborated with men. The guitarist from The National, Bryce Desner, he played on our last album. We've had people sit in with us who are men. So it's not like this situation where we're like these, raging feminists who don't want to make music with men. It's not that at all. But I do love that the core of the group is women. It also just opens up things visually, to be honest. We can experiment with what we wear. And I think it's just a novel, unusual sort of thing to see 5 women making this kind of music on stage. But I think it's important for everyone to know that it did come about. Music was the priority, and then these people happened to be the musicians that I wanted to work with.
That's very interesting, and I mean, I think that's something that's so remarkable about your group, that it is all women, you know, because like you said, you don't see that a lot in the industry, and so I think that's, you know, also a testament to women, you know, without being crazy or for feminism, but like you said, it's interesting that you're still, you know, you're like, yes, this is our core, but we're willing to work with other people, and we love working with other people. It's very interesting. I noticed you also mentioned that you have gotten to travel, and I know you guys were in Europe in 2001. Is that correct?
No, recently.
2011.
Yeah, we just formed in 2008. So
yeah, 2011 you're in Europe.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit, how is that? Is it different performing in Europe as opposed to performing here?
Yeah, we did two European tours in 2011, which is really exciting. And it is different. I mean, we played in the weirdest places in Europe. I mean, we played in an abandoned coal mine in Germany, in but a refurbished like power station in Berlin. We played in clubs in Belgium and in Paris, and played in an old squat in Amsterdam. I mean, so we were just like in these venues that were crazy. And that's what I love about the band, is that it can thrive in all these different sorts of places. So the audience reaction, it actually was very different from country to country, and it made me really realize the cultural differences. Like, for example, in Belgium, everyone was very quiet, which at first was a little disconcerting, because we're like, oh my God, they don't like us at all. But then they were very polite, and they would really listen, and they would clap, even though we were playing in sort of like a rock club. And then in Paris, people were just like yelling and screaming, which was also great, you know, for different reasons. So it was just, it's different like wherever you go. But we've been very lucky to play in a lot of weird, different places.
And you guys are planning another trip to Europe, or?
We're going to Sweden in May. That's sort of our next big, crazy trip.
That's exciting. And you're here at University of Dayton, which is an exciting, crazy trip.
Totally.
That's very cool. So where do you see your, you know, is it proper to call it a band, a group?
Sure, yeah.
I guess when it's undefined, you can kind of use terms like that. Where do you see your guys progressing or going? Do you know, hope to stick with the same indie rock romanticism, or just kind of go with the flow, or what's kind of your future look like?
Well, I mean, I want to keep writing music for the group, and I want it to get bigger and bigger. I think it's obviously really practical to just travel with 5 people, but we've been experimenting recently with adding singers. So we have like 2 singers that we add, and collaborating with a guitarist too. So there's like, I would love to have the opportunity to play shows that are bigger. I also would love to, in addition to just writing more music for the group, to think of projects that are a little bit bigger and weirder. Like I'd love to write an opera and have this band be the sort of pit orchestra. So instead of an orchestra in front of all these singers, you have us. So thinking in that way, and thinking really visually too, as well as musically.
Very cool, very cool. Do you have a say, you said visually, and when you do the music videos and things of that sort, are you back there going like, oh, this wasn't my idea, or yeah, that's kind of my idea, or do you direct it?
Sometimes. I mean, it depends on the situation. Like the one video we did with Cathedral City was made by my really good friend, Stephen Taylor. And so we talked about a general image that we wanted to project, like with our clothes and hair. But he came up with the sort of concept for the whole thing. So that was sort of a collaboration. But at some point I did just set him free, and it was like, okay, at this point you can do whatever you want, you know?
So it seems kind of by not having a genre, you almost have limitless bounds of where you can go. Is that a fair statement?
Definitely. I mean, we're really lucky in that I think we get the best of all possible worlds, and that we can tour with, you know, rock bands. And yes, it's a little weird to have, you know, violins and double bass up there, but it's not so out of the norm. And but we can also go and play at universities and like fit into a more classical framework. Because all the music is very complicated, it's all composed by one person, it's all written down. So in that sense, it's much more like a chamber ensemble. So yeah, we can kind of work to fit in anywhere.
Well, very, very interesting. I've certainly enjoyed getting to hear about you and hear some things that you've done. Is there anything else you'd like to add or say?
No, I think we covered it. We're just thrilled to be here.
And we are so grateful for you to come in here and especially do an interview with us.
Sure.
We really appreciate it.
No problem.
So I think we are good. Thank you for listening to Street Sound. And again, feel free to check out Missy out tonight with her band.
Mm-hmm.